My name is Christy West. I'm the board for Victoria Road. I'm the school moderator for Mount Vernon. And as you saw how I modeled it, we want to name and my address. And for the person who's taking the minutes, that's important that they know the address, and every time we come up to the mic, you will be saying name and your address if you don't mind. So welcome to our advisory deliberative session meeting, name of it. And we call it all deliberative session. I am brand new to this. I asked for forgiveness in advance. I'm following some notes from a couple years ago, following the slides. If I make a mistake, I count on you to let me know what I've done, and I will correct it as soon as I can. So first thing we're going to do is have an invocation, and I'd like you all to stand and lead in the very experienced prayer. This is one we did the invocation. And then I would like to remain standing so we can do the pledge of allegiance, and then we'll start the meeting.
I just asked that we just rise and maybe take a thought about what a great place we're in, what a great town we're in. There's a lot to be thankful here. We're heading into sort of the election season, and just recognize that everyone in this town has vested interest in making a better place, making it better for the kids, making it more affordable. And if we have differences of opinion, just recognize that that's everyone's right, and we all get along. And I hope it becomes a very successful election season and voting season, and a wonderful season for the school yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will take the flag. Take the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so first, we are going to introduce people that participate in this project. And you are the very first one that is the most important. Again, yeah. We cannot hear you. Okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't speaking right into the mic. First, we are going to introduce the people that are involved in this process, and you are the most important. I really appreciate you showing up for this hearing. I have to admit myself, I've not come to very many of these as my children were growing up, and I regret it. Now that I'm involved in this process, and I see how much the citizens can contribute. You are here to discuss and to understand the warrant articles that everybody else will get to vote on March 13th. Well, papers that March 12th. Yes, March 13th. Okay, so first I'd like to introduce Mike Berry, superintendent of SAU. He will be giving a presentation, and I will introduce the rest of the people participating in this afternoon.
Evening, folks. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening on behalf of SAU 39. For those of you who attended previous deliberatives, my remarks are very similar to the previous evenings. And the reason being, as SAU, 3 different districts, we want to make sure that the experience for our students and families is as consistent as possible. And for right now, we're in a transition kind of period with myself in the first year as superintendent. So I just wanted to make sure that we are being really consistent with our messaging. So let me begin by saying I'm humbled and privileged serve the Amherst and Mont Vernon communities as superintendent of schools. It is a tremendous opportunity and responsibility. Please note that as superintendent, I care about all stakeholder groups, including the taxpayer. We intend to use every dollar efficiently and be as transparent as possible. Schools are a fundamental part of a community, and I believe a respectful partnership between schools and their communities is essential. In SU 39, we've committed ourselves to engage, challenge, and support all learners. We will create schools with optimum balance of high academic expectations while ensuring care for the whole student. This school does this incredibly well in this town. Like most, our school districts are navigating the new realities of our post-pandemic, hyper-connected global society that requires us to approach education differently. Input from community members and the boards about the importance of developing a strategic plan is not lost on me. Reviewing the work of the last 3 superintendents has been valuable. The framework for progress, which you might have had shared with you via messenger, we might have had shared with you in social media, or picked it up this evening as you walked in, and the QR code to download to your device, provides a foundation for developing an effective, operational, and difference-making strategic plan. The long-term plan provides the overarching direction for the SAU, allowing each school to develop site-specific goals and action steps. This work will be forthcoming in collaboration with individual boards. Please note, I feel we are a strong and capable SAU with the resources to fulfill the promise of public education. It is essential that we work towards the goal of transforming every school into a reliable vehicle for continual instructional improvement. This is a critical step toward ensuring our educational institution provides students with the highest quality education possible, an education that leads to productive citizens who give back to their community. The leadership of SAU 39 and in the buildings is committed to promoting consistency and stability across all schools while improving literacy in mathematics, expanding and improving the use of instructional time, supporting the continual improvement of instructional practices, and strengthening partnerships. The urgencies of these realities is the catalyst for this framework. I wanted to highlight and communicate the good work that has occurred and is ongoing in all 3 districts, especially in Mont Vernon. I continually look for ways to narrow energies and remove distractions that impede learning and negatively impact the educational experience of our students. There needs to be a certain amount of autonomy from school to school and district to district, allowing for individual creativity, different implementation, or unconventional methods. Framework for progress is the North Star all our schools will follow. All work in all schools has to connect to this destination. The framework is not a reform, it is an improvement. This will serve as a bridge to the fully developed strategic plan. Please know that we are working with a sense of urgency, increasing our pace of change, as our students are counting on us to do so. I believe SAU 39 is poised to achieve great things in the coming years as we strengthen the educational environment for our students and educators. I have no doubt that together we can make this journey a reality. I invite you to join me with confidence as we take on this work. We welcome your ongoing feedback and urge you to partner with us as we move forward. Appreciate everyone coming tonight, and I appreciate participation in this process. Thank you.
My thought about it, would you mind introducing the people of the SAU staff?
Perfect. So, as people know, a lot of work goes into these processes, and we we're very fortunate that we have committed members of the school board and committed and dedicated members of the SAU staff. They're here with us tonight. We have a couple of board members, James Stokinger, we're grateful, and Sarah Lawrence, who's going to be leading us in this presentation this evening. We have Steve Chamberlain, Assistant Superintendent, Amy Facey, our Business Administrator, Steve Manwell, Assistant Superintendent, and with us at the table this evening, we have Tom Wetline. And over there, table by the wall, Diane Coker, I promise, Renee, appreciate you. So, thank you very much.
Okay, now you've seen all of the people involved. So our next order of business is to go over the rules that we will follow over tonight. I'm sorry, I have two pieces of paper and two different phone. Yeah, that's right. Only Mount Vernon registered voters, plus FAU staff and school district staff recognize company applicants. Only Mount Vernon registered voters are entitled to vote. We're not going to be having the tickets, so I don't think there'll be any paper votes tonight. Each motion to, you can make it, we're not going to vote on the warrants. Your job tonight is to make the wording if you wanted to appear in the warrant article that everybody else gets to vote on March 13th. So what we're discussing is the wording, and that is your particular job. We will read the warrant articles. Most of the school board will, school board members will, and there are amendments that are allowed, but at the end of each process, then it will be accepted, and that will be wording and will go on to the warrant article that is printed. So each motion to amend a vote warrant. I'm having trouble taking minutes from last year. The moderator will not accept amendments to amendments. So if there's an amendment, we need to have a discussion. We read the warrant article. We're going to have a discussion about it. We ask questions. If there's any amendments, we handle that amendment thoroughly before we move on to any other amendment. And we do get to vote on the amendment. So if there's a majority that wants the amendment, then that will change the word. Amendments are supposed to have to be in writing, submitted to me. When you, as I told you before, when you come to the mic, you need to state your name and your address each time you come. No individual will be allowed to speak a second time until everybody's had their say. 3 minutes is the limit that we're putting on it. I'm not sure what the timekeeper is. I'll watch. Speakers must speak to the central microphone, and all comments are to be addressed to the moderator, me, not to the audience. And something that Keith said, with a generous spirit and with respect for everyone who wants the community to be better, we're all trying to make things better, not have any kind of acrimony about what we disagree with. No motion to call the question will be accepted by me until there is a sufficient debate on the article. So if you feel like we need to discuss it further, you need to speak up and make sure that happens. A motion to restrict consideration in accordance with RFA 40 should be made immediately following the announcement of the vote on that article. That is what will make it final. So the minute taker, Renee, can write it down exactly what you're going to warrant. Motion to pass over, table, and postpone will not be accepted within my discretion. Any voter may challenge any ruling that I have. This is your meeting, and you ultimately decide. You want to overrule me, you vote as a majority, overrule. There's something that Gordon Ballard, who's on the school board, as a moderator for the FAU. He had a plain language way of saying that. He says, your job tonight is to discuss, deliberate, and debate each warrant article. This is your chance to ask questions. Two, you can take one of two courses of action on each warrant article. Maintain the original wording of the warrant article as will be placed on the ballot, or amend the original wording of the warrant article so that it is approved by the majority of these people, of you here, and then it is amended. To amend, a simple majority is required. This body is not permitted to amend statutory language. One person who hasn't been introduced is Steve Bennett, who is our legal counsel. There are two places where the statutory language in some of the articles. The first article is which I'm going to present and read. There's no change allowed. It's basically just to elect officers. So it tells you for what position you need to be. Okay, so that is the introduction. Move on to where we have the first warrant article. Do you agree with these rules that I just read to you? The show of hands would be fine. Thank you very much. This is supposed to be a collaborative process. So the first article 1 is the election of officers that you will be voting on March 13th on the ballot. We are to choose 2 school board members. We have 2 vacancies for the ensuing 3 years. We choose 1 school district moderator for the ensuing 1 year. That's my position. I am running, I don't know what they're registered. There's 1 for a school district clerk for the ensuing 1 year, and there's still an opening for the school district treasurer, which has been held by a very competent person for many years, but we're trying to find out if she's still running, because we would love to have the treasurer. There's no discussion, there's no changes, so that would be accepted as the warrant of the wording that goes on the warrant, correct? Just keep checking and what I'm doing is right. Okay, so the second warrant article is going to introduce Sarah Lawrence of the school board, and she will address that in the presentation of it. And then the finance committee people will speak what they analyzed and what their vote on it was, just as we have the selectmen vote on certain things before we vote. The finance committee has been looking at it for several months, so they'll be giving them public citizens' opinions as they analyze it more carefully than you might tonight. So, Sarah.
Thank you. I do just want to take one moment and acknowledge that we do have 2 board members who are missing this evening. Mr. Pete Eckhoff, our chair, Justin Peakley, our vice chair, and George Flores, our secretary. They had extenuating circumstances in the last minute and were sadly unable to be here this evening. So I think the honor and pleasure of presenting to you. And Andrew wants to go and chime in, so you don't just have to hear my voice this evening. So thanks very much for bearing with us. And that's the reason why you only have the 2 of us here this evening. So on to Article 2. Article 2 is the operating budget, so I will read it as written, and then we'll go into some explanation. Article 2, shall the Mont School District raise and appropriate an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $6,639,106. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $6,542,646, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Vernon School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold 1 special meeting in accordance with RSA 313 to take up the special issue of a revised operating budget only. A majority vote is required. This is recommended by the Mont School Board on 5-0, also recommended by the Mont Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. The estimated tax impact of passing this article is 99 cents per thousand. The estimated tax impact of not passing this article is 70 cents per thousand. As a note, warrant article 2, this operating budget, does not include appropriations proposed in any other warrant articles. So in years past, we tried to give you this story, the highlights of what's really happening with this budget, so that's what you're going to see on this slide, and we'll review. Main story here is our wages and benefits. We have a significant increase in both health and dental insurance. It's almost a 22% health insurance increase and almost a 5% dental insurance increase. So 21.8% for health and 4.7% for dental. The MBDA contract is also in its 4th year, set to expire in June of 2025. Our second highlight is that we pay tuition to the Amherst Middle School. That is based on the number of students, and it is determined by the average cost per pupil. So if our numbers of students go up, we pay proportionally more, if they go down, less. But that also is impacted based on the overall student pool at the Amherst Middle School. Inflation is another highlight here. We have rising costs of utilities and facilities service contracts. The net decrease in student services costs are based on student need. So there is an increase in transportation costs, an increase in staffing based on student need, but a decrease in related services. Our risk management and investment in our reserve funds, we're going to talk about contingency funds, facilities, special education, health and dental insurance, and technology. So this slide is an executive summary of the budget. The FY25 operating budget is a 5.9% increase, which amounts to $372,802. That's over and above the FY24 adopted budget. Of that increase, we have 4.4%, which is $276,342. That's the difference between the FY24 operating budget and the FY25. So that difference between the FY25 default and the FY25 proposed is the $96,460 that you see, or 1.5% increase. Just as a reminder, this calculation excludes the special warrant articles passed in FY24. So it gives a true apples to apples comparison between the current year and the proposed operating budget. Budget comparison by fund. So, we're looking at the general fund, food service, and grants. This comparison is going to break out the budget by those 3 major funds. Food service is increasing primarily due to insurance election changes, and there's a modest projected increase in food costs. The goal is to have food service fully offset by revenue, but we're budgeting for potential transfer from the general fund to cover any shortfalls there. Grant funding is budgeted as an expenditure as well as offsetting revenue, and it's expected to increase by $8,500. As expected, the major source of the increase is in the general fund, but it's important to note that while the budget is up by 0.9%, it's 0.4% of that is expected to be offset by revenue. Enrollment projections are always really important to give us a sense of where we're going, where we've been, and where we're going. NESDEC is the firm that we used to help provide those projections. So NESDEC provides the district with reports that display the past, the present, and projected enrollments. It is really important to update enrollment projections every year so that we can identify any changes in those enrollment patterns. 10-year projections are designed to provide the district with yearly up-to-date enrollment information so that we can be effective planners and effectively allocate our resources. The NESDEC provides the annual enrollment projections in the fall, winter timeframe, as well as updating in the spring. Over the next 3 years, grades K through 6 are expected to increase by 32 students as students move through the grades. In FY 33, there are 284 students projected, which is 53 more students that are currently enrolled this year. Also, what we know from NESDEC is that the projection is getting more accurate year after year, so the more data they collect from us, the more accurate. Something else to consider is our staffing levels. So on this slide, we're going to take a look at the staffing levels. So you'll see the grade level over on the left, and then the projected need for NESDEC, the actuals for FY 24, and then what's projected for FY 25. The actual enrollment on this slide is as of October 1st, and the NESDEC projected is for FY 25. So as you can see, the total number of students is pretty consistent, but the actual number of kindergartners versus the NESDEC projection shows an increase of 10 students. So the number of teachers is not expected to change, with 2 per grade to maintain the current level of student to teacher ratio. No major changes. With certified staffing, there are no changes proposed for this year, staying with the current model for specials that was put in place last year. So again, no story. In non-certified staffing, we are projecting a need for an additional special ed professional. This is based on student need, so it's directly tied to student need. We're looking to include also a 0.75 custodian in the budget, as opposed to the goal being built by an outside contractor. That's my connection. Looking at the budget by category, here we've got the major categories in that left-hand column. You will see that the biggest increase is in curriculum. That includes tuition to the Amherst Middle School. It includes administration, which includes the SAU assessment and transportation as well. You'll see that there is a decrease in student services, which includes special education. When we look at this slide, we are looking to break out our personnel and non-personnel by category. So this demonstrates a significant increase in health and dental insurance. Salaries include increases based on the NDEA CBA, and there's a new contract set to be negotiated next year. Other benefits in these categories include Social Security, Medicare, the NHRS. We have curriculum here that includes the AMS tuition, the admin line, the SAU assessment, office equipment and supplies falls in there. Transportation includes the regular and special education transportation with a fuel increase. We are in year 3 of 5 for regular ed transport, and we have a new special education contract. In food service, again, here we're looking at food cost increases and a transfer from the general fund. In technology, we're looking at device replacements, software, parts and supplies. In facilities, that's covering utilities, repairs, and preventative maintenance contracts. And in student services, there is a decrease, and that's directly based on student need. We talked in the beginning of the article about the default. Default is different than the proposed, and this slide is going to help explain how that calculation comes to be. So this is how the default is calculated. The default budget is the amount of the same appropriations in the operating budget from the previous year. It's reduced and increased by debt services, contracts, and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law. And it is reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the operating budget and by salaries and benefits of positions that have been eliminated in the proposed budget. So to calculate the default, the FY 24 warrant articles are removed from the FY 24 budget. and the increase or decrease adjustments are then applied. Contractual salaries and benefits are the source of the largest increase, primarily due to health and dental increases, insurance increases, as well as salary increases according to the CBA. There's the increase in tuition to the Amherst School District. There's the increase in rent and food service expenditures. All of those are included as these costs are offset by revenue. Student service costs, including transportation, is actually a net. And the change to the SAU assessment is there to determine the default amount. So this year, that total change is 4.4%, or $276,342. That helps you understand how we get to that default. The difference between the FY 24 default calculation and the proposed budget include the items that are not required to be included in the default. So these are the items that we potentially at risk of not being funded if we go into a default budget again this year. So these cost items include salary and benefit increases for non-unit employees. It should be noted that the significant increase in H&D is not included in the default. Facilities include utilities, repair lines, and some preventive maintenance. Transportation includes the cost difference in the regular education transportation contract. The transportation amount for this year is capped as the FY 23 voted amount. Technology is primarily device replacements, software, parts, and supplies. The food service transfer that may be required in the general fund is to cover the shortfalls in the food service budget. So the total difference between the default and the proposed budget is $96,460 or 1.5%. Everybody loves their answer. So this slide provides a visual representation of the composition of this budget. As expected, most of the budget is comprised of salaries, so the big blue part of the pie, the main part here on the right. The benefit and tuition in the Amherst School District is the next largest. Then we see the other pieces of the pie slide. On the revenue side of things, for revenue, we have the food service program. It is designed to be a net zero enterprise where revenues offset expenditures, but it is a challenge. So while we include the full amount of revenue to offset the expenditure, we are also budgeting for a $10,000 budget transfer to fund a potential shortfall in the food service program. The grant revenue budget is estimated to increase by $8,500. Other federal, state, and local revenue are expected to remain mostly flat. These sources include interest income, Medicaid, and special education aid. The total amount project to be available from the unassigned, projected to be available from the unassigned fund balance for both warrant articles and offset next year's tax rate is less than the current year. So the total amount for warrant articles is $90,000, which is $40,000 less than last year, and the amount projected to offset the tax rate is $145,000. The actual amount that offset the tax rate for FY was $132,500. Overall, there's a small decrease in expected revenue, and that's about $1,324. So what does this mean for our tax rate? The projected tax rate impact is what this slide is going to show. We estimate an increase of 99 cents to the tax rate for next year. This includes the total appropriation for the budget and the warrant articles funded from the unassigned fund balance, plus a small decrease in revenue, a projected increase in adequacy aid from the state, and a decrease in the statewide property tax. The result is an increased tax effort of $330,025, which is a 99 cent tax rate increase. with that, I'm going to turn it over to our budget committee, and Matt, for the chair, so I will turn it over to you for comment. And
Why don't you call me? I originally said it, speaking from there, but with you guys and cleaning. Comment about it.
Is there any way we could zoom in on that picture? Because it's like a struggle to read some of those little letters. The print is very small on some of this, like the titles are fine in blue, but then once you get it. I mean, I just had laser surgery last year and so. Tremendously. Don't be able to color the graphics around the side, which is the numbers. I mean, it's gotta be a happy medium. Is that everyone? But so you can see the numbers that you have, I didn't mean to make a fuss, I thought it would be like.
Can we go back and forth?
My name is Ryan Black. I'm the chair of the advisory committee. With me here as well today are Eric Willis and Brandon Martinez. So we were all brand new to this process this year. I never volunteered before, so we had a lot of work to do. We spent a lot of time learning the process and people work on budget and what our goals are. I'll just give you a little overview of kind of how we work through. And then Eric will come up and speak to each of the items that we go over each. So what we did was we took, especially for Article 2, the full budget, we took the budget as a whole. We split it into a number of different categories and split out those categories to each person that they needed to line by line. So we learned about the budget structure, we investigated the budget line by line for each of the categories. What we focused on, in addition to the total amount of the budget, we also focused deeply on the individual line items that we went up. We tried to look at whether each of those increases was well defined, was reasonable, and well justified. We asked questions about the school board, we asked questions of the administration to that organization for this line items. We also looked carefully at the line items that went down. We wanted to make sure that we understood why they were looking at that and make sure that they weren't really popular students. Overall, my opinion, our thinking is that well, I was very impressed with the transparency of the process. All of this information was available in intent. The fact that we got to ask questions in the public forum, we were asking for extra information about the guidance that public on the product itself, data to look at in public responses, so we can understand what we're asking them to look at. So to see the other specific data but I know that I'm speaking with the administration about the process of developing the budget, maybe the itself. The strategy of kind of all the departments starting with the existing budget and saying, okay, this line item $2,000 per case with my is increasing it. My understanding was that basically it's starting to take each of the categories. Something that was going to be left. Was pretty. So here, just by from looking at some of the negative items that decreased. Overall, our feeling from digging into the budget, digging into the process, was that we feel very confident about our understanding of the budget and confident our votes based on the process. And part of that is with to our vote.
Hi, everybody. The Financial Advisory Committee voted yes on this warrant article, 3 in favor, 2-0.
I can add the first part of my job as moderator was to find these 3 people who would serve on the committee. And that was a bit of a challenge as he came, who previously had a position, told me, I was talking about it. And the rigor they put, these people put into having the meeting, asking the questions. You're here tonight, you're seeing some of the numbers for the first time. There's citizens just like you, and all I can say is I was not supposed to be part of the process. And all I saw, I attended one meeting, and I heard about the results. I just felt very comfortable and they really thoroughly inspected. Very good. So, is there any discussion? Anybody want to come to the microphone and talk about it or ask a question? Then there's 5 minutes, and I think that it will be on for ethics currently, where it will be on the warrant. And I have a motion to reserve the consideration of the land right here. Thank you. Pete moves to restrict the consideration. Is there a second? Howard. We have several. And then what's that? Then you vote on the no reconsideration. All in favor of restricting reconsideration, please raise your hand. Thank you. That was my first time in the whole process. We'll do that. Fine. Okay. So Sarah, back to you.
Okay, we are up to Article 3, which is our first warrant article on the contingency fund. Shall the Mont Vernon School District vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to put in said fund. This sum to come from new taxation. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. Majority vote is required. This is recommended by the Mont Vernon School Board as 5-0. It is also recommended by the Mont Vernon Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. This has an estimated new tax impact of passing this article is 9 cents per thousand. The purpose of this contingency fund would be to provide financial support for unanticipated expenses. It helps to ensure a consistent student experience. Again, if unanticipated expenses come up, it would help us to potentially not have to freeze a budget. How it works, this is authorized by the NHRSA. A public hearing would need to be held prior to the funds being expended. And unused funds are required to be returned to the taxpayer. And the accounting and report of expenditures must be published in an annual report. So essentially, this money would be raised by new taxation. If it is not needed or not used, it gets returned to the taxpayer. if there is an unanticipated need, again, there would need to be a public hearing prior to the funds being authorized to be expended, and everything needs to be accounted for. So I do want to toss this really briefly to Mr. Chamberlain, just to see if you have a little bit more context, about this particular part.
Sure, and this is the first time, our community has seen a contingency fund article. And what spurred this work with the board and with my committee. So last year, I was in the chair as the superintendent, and due to some unanticipated student expenses, there was a discussion with the board about raising the budget to change the student experience. And this year, seeing a discussion with the board, unanticipated expenses in the budget going through the year, the budget is extremely tight. And what the concern, this community is so generous and supports the budget, we really want to implement that budget for the students who have that experience. And what this fund would do is it would give us a slight hedge against possibly freezing the budget that Sarah talked about, which really implementing the budget as voted, through this process. But again, it is there if we need it, whether this year, some pressures on the budget that included some students, some staffing changes, and also some legal fees and things like that. So it's really to provide a little bit of a buffer to support implementing the budget. And it's not necessary, it should be great, then it goes back to.
Financial advisory committee voted yes on this warrant article. Be in favor to 0 opposed.
Is there any discussion? Name and address, please. Anyone in Warwell's name? So if there were an unanticipated expense needed to have learning the board, and the unanticipated expense was related to something that was tied to a privacy issue, how would you handle that? How would it be? I believe it can get stated as a student meeting. Okay. In the same way that you see on budget now, like student services are directly tied to the student need, that's all that can be disclosed, right? Actually, I can say. Shouldn't be, whatever. Yeah, no privacy disclosure, it's simply that there's a student need. And then is that hearing, how is that notified? That's a great question. Well, that's someone who knows where the need. Yeah, so all public hearings have to be noticed, more 7 days prior, so we would go out and if on newspapers or regular circulation, usually to, telegraph, sometimes you can hear, we have it, and then it would also need to be posted to the locations. And in my role as clerk, is that something you do? Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this part? I hear silence, so I request someone make a motion to script reconsideration.
I'll make that motion.
He can. And Eric will second it. I have a vote of hands, show of hands. Go on. Thank you. Okay, Article 4 is our property maintenance fund. Shall the Mont Vernon School District raise and appropriate the sum of up to $50,000 to be added to the school property maintenance expenditure trust fund? This was previously established in 2007. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2024 unassigned fund balance for surplus that's available for transfer on July 1st, 2024. No amount to be raised from new taxation, majority vote required. This is recommended by the Mont School Board 5-0. This is recommended by the Mont Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. The estimated new tax impact of passing this article is $0 per thousand. The estimated new tax impact of not passing this article is negative 15 cents per thousand, so 15 cents per return per thousand. This board has done a really good job over the last few years. I think we've done a really good job over the last few years with the help of our administrative team of looking at a long-term facilities plan. So on this slide, you'll see the funding of that plan all the way back to 2021. So the long-term facilities plan worked out really well for our district. The grid here shows the projects and proposed funding plan through FY31. The next big project is phase 2 of the HVAC duct replacement. The facilities plan will also be refreshed this spring with a review of current and future project and funding plan adjustments. So projects that likely need to be included are HVAC equipment, an ADA ramp, a water system design, parking lot paving, and a building generator replacement. The goal of this plan is always to maintain at least $100,000 in case of an emergency issue. So if you look at this, you'll just see what the projects are that are potentially on the slate, the contribution by year, any withdrawal based on a project that will be completed that year, and then the balance over on the right-hand side. You may remember last year, we were in kind of a tight budget situation, so we asked taxpayers for $20,000 less than we normally ask to fund this fund. We asked for $30,000. This year, we are back up to recommending. And toss it over to the advisory budget committee.
As it said on the slide, the Financial Advisory Committee voted yes on this warrant article, 3 in favor, 2-0 opposed.
I think they might be proving my point. If you look into it deeply enough, the costs are justified. Yeah.
Peter King at the Little Road. First of all, I'm always in favor of this. It's something that was established for the back in 2000s when the school was an absolute disaster, and the school board since continued with the administration to keep this building in great shape. I'm proud of this building. Do have a question though? There was somebody raised a question about the water system, and the school was closed because of the water system issue. And I just want to ask, is that something that needs to be addressed as an emergency, or is it something that's being planned for next year? Is it in budget? What's your opinion?
Right now we are concerned about the water issue we are having. It's something that we're working with our various vendors, you know, bringing in more conversation instead of being on how to go about it for the short term, we need long term process. It's not quite, haven't finished our assessment at this point. And the way you will do it more details about it.
Yeah, this was the new development this year, so to answer the question for next year. But part of the reason why we need to make sure that we keep that at least $1,000 in there, and the balance is for items such as if emergencies were to come up. Our facilities director is actively working with vendors and trying to figure out exactly what the issue is. So I do expect that we will be addressing the school board, over the next few meetings, to figure out exactly what the problem is and how to address it.
I'm looking at articles 4 through 7, they're all from the onset from the office. We have, I understand we're going to have an estimate of how much you're going to have. But if you go down to that totaling 90,000 for all 4. If you don't have that much, how are you going to decide what money is assigned to it?
So the warrant articles are funded in the order that they are presented on the ballot. So you would go from, Article 4, which is the maintenance fund first, and then the ensuing, articles after that. Contingency fund is not part of that, that's always taxation. And that is a mindful choice in order to we deliberate over the order of the articles to make sure that they're prioritized. If there are limited funds in the unexpended fund balance, we would be prioritizing the things that we think are most needed. That makes sense.
Any other discussion? Then I would say that we're accepting it as currently ordered. And I make a motion to restrict the consideration. Howard. The second. Pete came from. And can I have a vote? Joe Hanson. We are restricting the consideration. Compare. Andrew.
Article 5, the Special Education Fund, was previously called the Students with Disabilities Fund. Article 5 states, shall not in the school district change the name but not the purpose of the Students with Disabilities Capital Reserve Fund to the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund, and to raise and appropriate sum of up to $15,000 to be added to said fund previously established in March of 2016. This sum is to come from the June 30th, 2024 unassigned fund balance, available for transfer on July 1st, 2020. No amount to be raised from taxation, majority will require. This was recommended by the Mont School Board, 5 to 8. The estimated new tax impact of passing this article is 0 for them. The estimated new tax impact of not passing this article is negative $0.05 per thousand. I will pass it to them. But we decided to propose to change the name of the funds that are aligned with its purpose. The purpose of the fund is to provide support for unanticipated student needs and reduce the necessity to increase the budget. The current fund balance is $54,000, and the funding goal is to have between $150,000 and $200,000.
Andrew, how much did you say was in that account?
54,000. And now I'll hand it over to the advisory budget committee.
Okay, this one's very near and dear to me. Financial advisory committee voting yes on this warrant article in favor 2-0 opposed.
Any discussion?
We'll keep, Justin Circle, couple of questions with regards to this particular article. This community historically has not supported adding to our special education, fund, to the capital reserve fund. So I don't understand the difference between Article 3 as a contingency. Pull the language back up on the explanation. So the financial support of unanticipated expenses that could have accomplished, this is the explanation for our rate. Yeah, so the explanation for the funds. To provide support for anticipated student needs. Can someone just articulate the differences between those two and what we're using for? And then number two, the purpose of this obviously is for my perspective, parent. But for the community, why should we support this now versus in the past? And usually voting no, and hoping that this application.
So Article 3 is a general contingency that can be used for anything, that the board chooses. It could be legal issues, it could be a facility, if we wanted to, it could be, based on staffing. This article is very specific to special education need. So what happened in districts, what you're trying to hedge against is an unanticipated, to be honest, out of district placement, where a student moves in and requires somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 worth of cost. If that happened in a small community like this, it could significantly impact the program. Working with Maine Motion and other changes, when you try to build up over time, and then once you build up that one, you don't have to contribute anymore. Is approximately 1 out of district unanticipated significant student need. We are significantly below this. There is risk currently based on the amount of this funds. So if we did have something happen where a student needed very complex needs, the contingency plus this amount would still not meet the need, and this necessitate either a special school district need, which those are not truly what we want to do for a situation like that. So we're trying to save, reduce risk, and then once you fund it to the level, then you don't have to fund it. Then it just stays for interest. But we're trying to get to a place where maybe better and might still go.
One more. Can you elaborate on the impacts of once you move into the district? Let's say it's an out of district placement, and the last time maybe that happened, and the impacts of the budget. The phrase that we refer to Article 3, it's pretty kind of strong, correct?
Yeah, so we haven't needed to withdraw from funds, in a while, but in a neighboring district, the district broad was it happened. And so you have to, so what is voted is, that's the budget, and you can't overextend it. Deficit appropriation is when you need to spend more than you have. Is a very, very difficult issue to explain to the voters of the community. But it could happen, that you have to have a deficit appropriation. So if $100,000 need arose, that there isn't, to be completely honest, there isn't that kind of unallocated funding for the budget. It could not deliver the program that the voters have voted for their students if we have a situation like that. So this is the process, slow and over time, to build up the reserves to reduce risk and be able to implement the budget as a.
I'm just curious, we have people about this year. And I believe we have over 350 millions even out somewhere account. What happens to the students 7th and 8th grade? If something happens with this. Does the Amherst School Board take care of that? Or will we not look for that?
That tuition is responsible of Vernon.
You're thinking of a just a question on, I guess if you explain why the title has changed, and then really the question is, does this make any difference at all? Is the money, and I think Mr. Stoker just said this could be used for to meet student needs. Whereas the old one was certainly made to meet special ed needs under 1105 to 1111. if I, for plans too, would they be eligible for this? Although I don't know that they would have probably that expensive. Is that limited to those avenues, not the other ones?
And so the purpose didn't change of the title. It really, we're trying to get away from.
Second question, if money was needed, if this would require a public hearing or if this had.
And one thing that Mike's talking about, any time you take money from funds, even if it's not required, it's best practice to have a public hearing, see public input, running to questions, so. This is the board's, in my time in this age for design, been extraordinarily impressed by the experience in this community. It is not a match at any of this other districts.
I didn't know, there was, you have the money, but you have a separate hearing for that specific purpose. And if I. Any other discussion? Can I have a motion to restrict reconsideration on the revenue? Yes, Pete King and Eric will accept. Show of hands.
Article 6, the health and dental insurance fund. Article 6 states, shall Montgomery School District raise and appropriate a sum of up to $10,000 to be placed in the health and dental insurance expendable trust fund previously established in March 2020. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2024 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from new taxation, majority vote required. This was recommended by the Montgomery School Board, 5-0. The estimated tax impact of passing this article is $0 per thousand. The estimated tax impact of not passing this article is negative $0.03 per thousand. So the purpose of having this fund is to have a savings account for unexpected changes in employee insurance elections. This has happened to us when someone has left and had to hire different insurance elections than previously, or if a current faculty or staff needs to change their insurance elections. Our change the greatest support. This fund reduces any pressure on our budget when one of those unexpected events occurs. The current fund balance is $15,000. The funding goal is between $40,000 and $50,000. The advisory budget committee.
The Financial Advisory Committee voted yes on this warrant article, 3 in favor to 0 opposed.
Any discussion? Being none, then it will be from one article that it is. Motion to consider the consideration. Two regulars, Howard and. For the second. And Michelle voting. Thank you. I'm gonna pause for just a minute if there are thank yous that I did not put in the beginning, when I was trying to get the process down like that. So Ed Wendell over here is the person who set up all the technology, the reason Zoom works, the reason I can afford everything. I don't know, I can do technology world, we don't have a guy like him, nothing works. So thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I learned my job from minutes that I found out that Danae is a professional minute maker, and I did not know the thing, but she takes excellent minutes, and the document of your last meeting, Keith, is how I learned what I'm supposed to do and have for my meeting record. So thank you very much. Second, I have to say, the FAU staff, I have been blown away how professional you are. Mike, I think you came into it later than hire these people. That's true.
No, I do.
You
I
inherited.
did not hire anyone from this team. They inherited me, and they're very patient with me.
So a little
Good
less.
observation.
Walk into the job and have these, Amy is the one that I spoke to the most. And it was never, she did, and it was patience, even when I repeat questions, 3 days in a row. She comes to meetings where she's not required, but she does it voluntarily. I've met this team, and I just can't tell you, I've never met the professional people for so long. And Peter, he was saying that he couldn't be here last tonight, Peter Eckhoff, he was saying, oh, well, I wasn't, she was on the school board at Amherst, and yes, she knows what's going on. I was like, oh my God. Like, this is where a long time. So thank you very much for that, Katie staff. And lastly, our school board, there's 3 people that are missing out about their own, a life, work, family. But everybody I've seen on the school board, the work that they do, meeting, if you've ever zoomed into a meeting for the school board, please do. It is exhilarating, it's exciting, it's always something interesting here. They don't just talk about, how they're gonna handle the building and maintenance. They literally talk about the good of the children every single week. And we have to talk to those in case you're interested in volunteering to become a school board member. It's really an important job, it's a very gratifying job. So, with that, we move on to the last one.
Article 7, technology. States, shall the Mont Vernon School District establish a technology expendable trust fund under the provisions of RSA 198-20C for the purpose of purchasing, updating, maintaining, and replacing technology infrastructure, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Mont Vernon School Board as agents to expend said fund. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2024 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2024. No amount to be raised from new taxation, majority vote required. This was recommended by the Mont Vernon School Board 5-0. The estimated new tax impact of passing this article 0 per thousand. The estimated new tax impact of not passing this article is negative 5 cents. So the reason that we would like to establish this fund is that we have a vision and strategy for using technology in the educational environment. We want to use this technology to help innovation, collaboration, and to help our students succeed. This fund would allow us to save up for infrastructure required to help our students. So it's things like telecommunications, networking systems like the one that I'm using to view the statements I'm reading right now, and the interconnection between different school buildings. The funding plan for this would be 15,000 this year, but would be 25,000 in the following years. And to the advisory budget.
And the Financial Advisory Committee voted yes on this warrant article, 3 in favor to 0 opposed.
Any discussion?
Yes, Peter, I guess I just wanna voice some opposition to this. 20 years ago, we did computer in school. We don't have to in the time on per classroom, and that's a big expense. And so we've grown from there to the point where we have a network system in the building. I understand it maybe needs to expand it. There are things. It's something that it's not a stable system. Few years after you buy things, you need to replace them. But I just don't see the plan there, other than let's get some money to figure out what to do. I know that's not your intent, but at least with like the building plan, there is concrete, this is what we're doing next year, this is what we're doing 5 years. This is what I didn't see it in this presentation. That's the point.
Here, if you don't mind, I'll speak to that, what's happening simultaneously. We do have a technology 3-year plan. We are set to produce and make public, many of our long range plans, after the delivery week is over. CNA technology plans, program plans, so communities and the taxpayers can see where we're moving. This one is clearly not as developed as the CNA planning, long range facilities planning, but it will be, and we're working on that and have that information. So I think that's a fair vision to make based on this presentation. But what we wanted to do is, plan as accordingly as we can, and intentionally as we can, so people know what's coming down. And so I appreciate the observation. Just want to speak to it. Thank you.
And just to add to that, there is a technology plan, piece that is in the file that is published.
Okay.
So it's available, and I'm happy to show you where it is, and does articulate, the needs over the coming years.
I was just saying, I was one of the competitors that announced exposure to call first. I specifically related that I know share. So, I have a
I have a motion for secretary consideration. We'll make it Pete first, motion, and Howard second. Oh. I'm sorry, I'm trying to leave. And, I am. I know you all, I don't know you in person. And, do I have to vote? This would be consideration. That concludes our motion. The one person I left off, I think, is, if you one more second, is Tom, who is the principal here at NBG. Could you please thank your staff? They set up polling places, they set up this, I mean, there must be somebody very busy all the time. So we are grateful. The first conversation I had, that I was excited about being moderator, was with Tom, because he was so excited to have people in the community working with them. How many of you still have kids in school? But my father was in school. I know the job, and he's just so passionate about it. He's exactly the kind of person. That concludes our business. Anything else on that? A little more silence. Oh, I do. Know that. You got one conversation when you get in trouble. Oh, okay. Okay, right. Absolutely. Well done.
So we do have a brief summary and some next steps that we're wanting to provide an update to the public. Last year, the community funded a modern facility study. The modern facility committee update is provided on this slide. So last year, funds were set aside for our facility study that was approved, and we wanted to let you know what's happening. The board created or charged the Mont facility committee. It's comprised of community members, teachers, the principals, the board members, and SAU staff. Andrew was present on both iterations of that committee. The committee was charged with investigating 3 issues related to future building capacity. So the first one was the first one was actually creating a 7th and 8th grade educational program, basically bringing our 7th and 8th graders back here, keeping them in Mont Vernon. The space needs due to the projected increase in enrollment. And then also the committee was charged with looking at the feasibility of establishing an inclusive preschool program, based on need that's been identified and also, based on needs unidentified. The community developed a request for proposal. So the RFPs were put out to select architecture firms. 2 firms responded to the RFPs. The board and committee interviewed those 2 firms, and there's a selection is in process. So that that work is being done. I can say the board was impressed with both firms that presented and excited to see what the next steps are. We wanted to provide you with that.
So, one comment on that, we are looking for proposals for each of those 3 separate issues separately, where we didn't just go to them and ask for, please give us the biggest proposal we can. These issues, we're going to have them separated out whenever we do bring it to the community before coming back. So this isn't something where we went the biggest possible thing we need. We're being very intentional about it. We're looking at different needs for the different situations. You know, a preschool is going to be in different shape than 7th and 8th grade would be. So we are being thoughtful and personal about it.
And then finally, we wanted to provide a summary of the warrant articles that we discussed this evening. So article number 1 is the election of officers. Article number 2 is the operating budget. Article number 3 is the contingency fund. That's the one that would be raised by a new tax effort. Articles 4, 5, 6, and 7 would be from the unexpended fund balance or surplus. So those are the property maintenance fund, the special education fund, the health and dental insurance fund, and the technology. And then with our budget review process, you can see the calendar that was laid out for the process here. This evening is our deliberative session, and the next opportunity for voters to engage in the process is on March 12th with district voting.
Yeah, general public comments. Bonnie Mitchell is 3 Bakers Way. I want to thank everybody for the presentation today. That's been very important. Thank you so much. Not your last evening, but your last evening with the public. Do you care to say how many years?
This is my 9th year.
Thank you.
Institutional knowledge that you know, trust in the process, and I thank you so much for sticking with it. And I encourage everyone in the audience to open discussions. That being said, I want to invite the entire board and the audience that is here today to join us tomorrow night for the capital improvement plan presentation. We are not budgeting in the bubble here. You will join us tomorrow night to see the needs of the town, because this budget directly impacts the success of the capital improvement plan. Your default increase is more than we're asking for the library, and actually almost double the impact of our payment. And as your goal, number 1 is literacy. We can help you with that. There are public safety issues that need to be addressed and town maintenance of the building also. So I invite you to join us just to see the other needs of the town. Your pie chart tonight is wonderful. That shows how you're accomplishing what the school needs. You're doing a phenomenal job. The school is there, but the rest of the town is not. So we have to remember that when we're budgeting. But congratulations to the school and all your achievements. Tom, thank you so much. You are a great leader and hope to stay with us. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you, Glenn. Wonderful. Any other comments before we adjourn? Thank you all for coming again. And like I said, it's a little bit bigger crowd than I think before, so I really appreciate you coming out. And stay tuned and volunteer.